New York City, September 23, 2025. The United Nations headquarters stands tall under the autumn skies, its glass facade reflecting both the optimism and uncertainty of our times. Inside these walls, world leaders have once again gathered for the annual General Assembly, a stage where global disputes, ambitions and ideals converge. Against this backdrop, US President Donald Trump met with Secretary-General António Guterres, a meeting that carried both symbolic weight and practical implications. The encounter was brief, lasting only minutes, but the words exchanged reverberated far beyond the room. Trump, known for his unpredictable approach to international diplomacy, made a declaration that surprised many observers. Our country is behind the United Nations 100%. In an era defined by skepticism toward multilateral institutions, this affirmation stood out. For years, Trump's relationship with the UN has been fraught with tension. In earlier speeches, he openly questioned its effectiveness, accusing it of bureaucracy, inefficiency, and even bias against the United States. He once mocked the General Assembly Hall with nationalist rhetoric, leaving diplomats visibly unsettled. But here, on this day, his tone was markedly different. With cameras rolling and the world watching, Trump projected a new message: that America, despite its criticisms, remains deeply invested in the mission of the United Nations. António Guterres, the seasoned Secretary-General, responded in kind. He praised Trump's emphasis on peace, acknowledging the president's attempts to broker ceasefires and reduce tensions in conflict zones. Guterres reminded him and the world that the UN is not just a debating hall, but an active network of missions, mediators, and humanitarian agencies deployed across dozens of fragile regions. His words underscored the reality that peace cannot be built by speeches alone. It requires cooperation between nations, especially the most powerful ones. The exchange between the two men highlighted the paradox of US-UN relations. On one hand, America has long been the backbone of the organization, its largest financial contributor, its most influential member, and the security guarantor that many states rely upon. On the other hand, American leaders, especially Trump, often bristle at the constraints of multilateralism, preferring unilateral action or smaller coalitions of the willing. This tension was once again on display, though cloaked in polite reassurances. Trump's statement about being 100% behind the UN was also a signal, aimed as much at rivals as at allies. At a time when Russia continues its war in Ukraine, when China flexes its influence across Asia and Africa, and when Middle Eastern conflicts threaten to spiral further, Washington's voice within the United Nations carries weight. By reaffirming support, Trump reminded adversaries that the US still holds the cards in shaping global diplomacy. For Guterres, the meeting offered a lifeline. The UN has struggled to assert itself in recent years, often sidelined by great power politics. Peacekeeping missions remain underfunded, humanitarian appeals fall short, and Security Council resolutions are too often paralyzed by vetoes. Having the American president declare his backing provides not only legitimacy, but also practical leverage to mobilize resources and pressure reluctant actors. Beyond the polite words and handshakes, however, deeper questions remain. Can this administration translate rhetorical support into concrete action? Will America contribute more consistently to peacekeeping, humanitarian aid, and mediation efforts, or will it continue to oscillate between engagement and withdrawal? These are the questions that diplomats whisper about in UN corridors, where symbolism must eventually meet substance. The humanitarian dimension, emphasized by Guterres, cannot be overlooked. He spoke of the horrible suffering of millions of people caught in wars and crises, from the devastated cities of Ukraine to the besieged streets of Gaza, from Yemen's famine to Sudan's collapse into conflict. The UN is often the last line of relief, yet its ability to deliver aid or negotiate access depends on the political will of states, particularly the US. For those suffering, the difference between words and action can mean life or death. This moment also reflects the shifting dynamics of the global order. The UN was founded in 1945, emerging from the ashes of World War II, with the hope of preventing another global catastrophe. For decades, its legitimacy rested on American leadership, European support, and a balance with emerging powers. But in the 21st century, that equilibrium is under strain. Multipolarity has arrived, and institutions like the UN are increasingly judged not by their ideals, but by their effectiveness in crises. Trump's endorsement, therefore, is not just about goodwill. It is about whether the UN can remain relevant in a fractured world. Observers recall that in his first term, Trump withdrew from major international agreements, slashed funding to UN agencies, and prioritized an America First doctrine. Now, with global crises multiplying, the White House appears to recognize that unilateralism has limits. Even a superpower cannot tackle pandemics, climate change, or mass migration alone. Aligning with the UN, even partially, signals a recognition of that reality. For Trump, the meeting also plays into domestic politics. At home, critics often accuse him of undermining alliances. By standing beside Guterres and offering praise, he projects an image of statesmanship, countering narratives that cast him as a destroyer of global order. The optics matter. The handshake, the cordial words, the suggestion of partnership. These images are broadcast not just to diplomats in New York, but to voters back in the United States. Meanwhile, within the UN building, reactions were mixed. Some diplomats welcomed the reassurance, noting that any expression of support helps steady the institution. Others remained sceptical, wary that rhetoric might mask future disputes. As one European ambassador put it privately, we've heard supportive words before. What matters is whether the US shows up when the Security Council is deadlocked or when humanitarian operations face funding shortfalls. Indeed, the coming months will test this pledge. Wars continue to rage, economies teeter on recession, and climate disasters displace millions. The UN's capacity to respond depends on cooperation with its largest stakeholders. If Washington's commitment holds, the UN gains a stronger hand. If not, cynicism will deepen and the gap between ideals and reality will widen. The Trump-Guterres meeting thus becomes more than a photo opportunity. It is a microcosm of global diplomacy, optimism tempered by skepticism, promises shadowed by doubt. It reflects the enduring truth that international peace and security rest not just on institutions, but on the political will of nations to empower those institutions. In closing, the message was clear, if not definitive. The US president assured the world's top diplomat that America stands with the United Nations. The Secretary-General reciprocated, pledging that his institution would work with Washington toward a just peace in the world based on our common values. For the millions enduring war and displacement, the hope is that these words are not simply diplomatic theatre, but a prelude to genuine action. Here in New York, under the gaze of history and the scrutiny of the world, the future of multilateralism was once again debated in the subtlest of ways, not through grand speeches or sweeping declarations, but through a brief meeting, carefully staged, yet heavy with meaning. And as always with diplomacy, time will tell whether today's promises shape tomorrow's peace.
You go ahead. That would be very nice. I'd love that, actually.
Now I want to say that you are very much welcome, Mr. President.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. It's always an honor to be here. We've done this before, and this was a little more exciting because of the escalator and the teleprompter, but these things happen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Our country is behind the United Nations 100%. I think the potential of the United Nations is incredible, really incredible. It can do so much. So I'm behind it. I may disagree with it sometimes, but I am so behind it because I think the potential for peace with this institution is so great. So I just want to thank you for treating us so warmly. We very much appreciate being with you.
Great pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I believe there are many areas where we can cooperate in a positive way, and I would think that the most important is peace. You have selected peace as a central objective of your mandate.
It's true.
And you have been going north and south, east and west, in all possible situations, getting or trying to get ceasefires, alleviating tensions, making peace agreements, or the building blocks of peace agreements. And I want to reassure you that the United Nations, from me to our teams on the ground, to our missions, we are entirely at your disposal to be able to work together for a just peace in the world, based on our common values. And one thing is, for me, extremely important, is that the suffering, the horrible suffering of millions of people in the world can be stopped.
Right.
And we fully appreciate your engagement in that regard.